Pie.
Hold on 1 second. Okay,
Oh
sorry.
wow! Oh wow! That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing today. What happened to the R-rated comedy? What was once a bastion of transgressive, clever crowd pleasers has become so dang mid. It's gotten to the point that whenever I see a movie touting its R-rated bona fides, I immediately lower my expectations because it's just like, it's always so cringe. Like, oh wow, they said the F word. How crazy! I've never seen anything that hard R before, especially not just, I don't know, scrolling on TikTok. The recent downturn is a damn shame because there was a time where the genre was hitting dingers so consistently, I would just go see them on principle. So what happened?
Woke.
I'm not entertaining this. Well, yes, we've seen cultural shifts in the last few years. That's not why the genre was flopping, at least not for the reasons that you think. But before we examine where we're at, we're gonna first take a look back at the glory days.
Wow. You really not going to introduce me at all?
Oh yeah, my former G4 coworker / current friend Jake is here, y'all. I can he's like one of the funniest writers I know, and I figured he's a great person to talk to about the current state of comedy movies. But before we get into that discussion, let's first take a look back at the glory days. The R-rated comedy has a storied tradition going all the way back to Animal House. Written by the legendary Harold Ramis, directed by John Landis, it laid the template for all the gross-out teen sex comedies that would follow in the 80s. While Animal House still holds up by virtue of the pedigree of everyone involved, movies like Porky's, and Revenge of the Nerds are a bit of a harder watch. For the sake of brevity, we're going to fast forward to the 90s, where 3 movies laid the foundation for where the genre would go in its glory years. And those films are Clerks, There's Something About Mary, and American Pie. Clerks was an indie low-budget banger that marked the directorial debut of Kevin Smith. It was a slice-of-life slacker comedy with raunchy jokes but a pronounced feeling of lived-in experience, largely because it was filmed at the very corner store that Smith was working at while he filmed it. The Farrelly brothers had quickly staked their claim in the comedy game with the back-to-back successes of Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin, but it'd be their third film, There's Something About Married, that would catapult them to blockbuster success. I'm pretty sure I said There's Something About Married. There's Something About Mary. It's been a morning, y'all. There's Something About Mary is fascinating simply because they truly do not make them like this anymore. It's a raunchy, gross-out blockbuster with a lot of heart. Given how blockbuster cinema has largely evolved into front-loaded franchise pictures and grand-scale epics, it's crazy looking back at this film's success. It's an incredibly R-rated rom-com starring Ben Stiller and Cameron Diaz, and it's about the insane lengths some men go for Cameron Diaz's Mary. The movie opened at number 4, but week after week it steadily held, eventually hitting the number 1 spot only months after it was released and becoming the 3rd highest grossing film of 1998. And finally, we have American Pie, which reinvigorated the teen sex comedy for the 90s generation. It made stars of Jason Biggs, Seann William Scott, Natasha Lyonne, and honestly was just like a hornier, more gross-out version of The Breakfast Club. It followed a group of high schoolers all trying to lose their virginity before they graduate. It was filled with absurd, gross-out gags, memorable one-liners, and a surprising amount of heart and empathy for its young, hormonal cast of characters. Also, a dude violates a pie, so like, what more do you really need from a movie? So, to get the spread out, Clerks is the low-budget indie comedy that could, There's Something About Mary is the R-rated blockbuster, and American Pie represents the teen college sex comedy. The R-rated comedy would generally thrive in this pocket through the 2000s. We'd get sequels to the American Pie films, as well as films like Euro Trip, Road Trip, Old School, and the perennial Comedy Central staples that are Van Wilder and Waiting. The comedic blockbuster would really come into its own in this era with bangers like Wedding Crashers, Tropic Thunder, and I would honestly have to put the Jackass movies in here as well. While they were low budget by design, these were cultural sensations that actually crushed at the box office. And as I've said before, Jackass 3D is one of the best uses of 3D, like probably only against Avatar. On the small budget tier, we'd get heaters like Super Troopers, Beer Fest, Harold and Kumar 1 and 2, Grandma's Boy, and as you can see, most of these movies revolved around either smoking, drinking, fucking, or as Jake puts it, a Tuesday. Going into the 2010s, the R-rated comedy seemed to be at its critical and commercial peak, essentially being what horror is today. You could throw one in theaters and it generally had a strong chance of making some decent scratch. So what went wrong? Well, before me and Jake try to provide an answer for that question, why don't you do me the favor of giving a like and subscribe? It'd mean a lot. And so with that, I take it over to me and Jake having a discussion about comedy. Question, as we get into it. Jake, would you agree with the assessment that, like, there's something about Mary, American Pie?
Hold on 1 second. Okay. Sorry.
Oh wow! That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing today. Okay. When I go to my deathbed, that will be my white whale. That is gonna be.
Yeah. I will be right there with it, watching you expire.
No matter what I accomplish in life, like I could fucking EGOT. I don't know why I'd be winning a Tony, but I could fucking EGOT, and I would still just be like, yeah, it's fine and all, but I didn't win the prize that actually matters.
I'm the Gunther to your Sami Zayn.
Truly,
it's
God, man.
Oh man,
it's just the fact that, like, you know, got so close and just couldn't close it. Just couldn't close it out.
I know.
Anyway. I'm so happy you didn't leave that in the office.
Oh man, I got the only reason I have it was because I was going to bring it in on Monday to bust your balls about it. I was just going to walk up the steps holding it up.
How's it feel? The only reason I have How's it feel looking at something you'll never obtain?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, just reopening old wounds aside.
Yeah.
So would you agree with the assessment that, like, basically the template for where the height of comedy in the 2000s was very much laid by kind of Clerks and American Pie, Something About Mary, like those three kind of defined the lanes that the genre existed in?
Yeah, 100%. Like that kind of that pretty much kind of covers, yeah, like you said, all three lanes that those kind of movies would fall under. I mean, they're all instant classics. The 2000s were, I mean, I sound so old, like, oh man, those were the days for movies. I mean, because you're also talking about stuff like Best in Show was in 2000s. You had like Meet the Parents was around then, but then you had ones like Road Trip, you know, Oh Brother Where Art Thou. So like, you know, that was that really like the 90s, and I'll go the 80s to 2000s, early 2000s was like, it was a great time for comedies.
We were eating one thing, because I've been rewatching comedies, obviously, for this video. One thing I do think the genre's kind of lost, especially as it went more improv heavy, is just stylization. Like, Superbad is funny, but it's also a surprisingly stylish comedy. Even the Farrelly brothers, while it's not necessarily like showy in terms of style, like, you know when you're watching a Farrelly brothers movie, you know when you're watching a Todd Phillips movie, and I couldn't for the life of me like tell you know, about the modern comedies I've watched,
it stands out anymore.
Yeah, it all kind of
nothing visually stands out. Yeah, it's like, all just very monochromatic. Almost like it just kind of they all kind of blend in, where you're like, oh wait, was this movie then, or wait, that part was in this? Like, it's just none of it's not unique anymore. It just feels all homogenized.
Yeah, it's sad that comedy, like, I don't know what they're not getting in terms of the genre. Like, that's the, because you go back and watch it, and I'm not saying it's hard, but I'm also not saying I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's not rocket science. Like it's a clear,
Right. I mean, and you can point. The problem is you can point so many fingers at so many different things, and you'll probably be right as to part of the reason why. Um, it's just like a lot of it to me is it boils down to I don't think writers and filmmakers have balls anymore. I just don't. Um, like the biggest thing it seems that people want to blame for the state of comedy today is wokeness. And I'll tell you this, to a degree they're right. But they're only right to the degree that you just need to say whatever it is you want to say and deal with the consequences.
yeah,
Because comedy is fearless. Is it always right? No. Does it always hit? No. But it's fucking fearless. That's what comedy is. It's you know going all in on something. This is what I have to say. It's like, I mean, it's the same thing that dramatic directors and writers do. They have something that they want to say and they go for it. And comedy doesn't feel like it does that anymore. And yes, part of it is fear of being canceled. Fear of being like
that's my thing. Is like we are now almost 10 years post like Me Too, the rise of
right.
cancel culture, all that, and bro, like Louis C.K.'s winning fucking Grammys. Shane
Right.
Gillis allegedly got canceled, but like he's the biggest comedian in the country right
Yeah.
now, and deservedly so. Like that man, like, and I think I respect about him is like he didn't immediately go to like the cancel culture got me. He was just like, all
No,
right,
he's not Joe Rogan now. He just
yeah,
kept doing his thing.
yeah, and it's like that's the thing is the difference between now and then is everyone has a voice now. You can't ignore the audience because generally when a movie does well, the only way you can measure how the population uh, felt about it was box
It was
office.
box office, right?
Yeah, that was what told you whether they were rocking with it or they weren't.
Mm.
Now, if the latest episode of The Acolyte has fucking Kayadi Mundi in it, you're gonna get 30 YouTube videos about how Disney doesn't understand Star Wars and space lesbians are killing it.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that, whether you agree with it or not, like, that's just how things are now. That's just the way of the world.
Right.
We can't we can't put that genie back in the bottle. So you're gonna offend anyone, no matter what you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. It's a balancing act of like there are there are certain groups to me that if I offend them, I'm doing my job.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And those kinds who are bitching about that kind of stuff on Star Wars and it's the you can't say anything anymore crowd. Like if I'm offending those people, then I've done my job.
yeah. I mean, that's how we felt at G4. Now that it's said, I think we can openly talk about it. But we weren't that freaked out when like the people we weren't trying to entertain in the first place were very vocally
We're
being
upset.
like, "We're not
Yeah,
entertained."
yeah.
Um,
Great. I'm not writing shit for you.
yeah, we didn't. The downside is we didn't realize how much of that was our audience going into it.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
did give us some clarity and a sense of purpose of like, no, that's not who we're doing this for. Because even with that, like our brief little run there, especially with the Professor Choke stuff, I feel like we did do like weird, fucked up, dark humor.
Yeah, I mean
Like
there are some jokes that we got into some stuff that I'm kind of like surprised. I mean, one of my favorite jokes that I wrote at G4 was about I had to do the retro review on Spider-Man for PS4, and we're coming hot off the heels of COVID, and I was like, oh, now we know more than ever what it's like to be Spider-Man, as we've all had to don a mask to protect everyone else, and we all lost an Uncle Ben. And that was one of my favorite jokes that I wrote while I was there, and it was like I just don't understand why comedy doesn't have to appeal to everybody. Like, yeah, it I'm not saying that you don't want movies to alienate people. You certainly don't want comedy to alienate people. That's not what comedy is about either. It's about being part of the joke. That's kind of the fun, is being part of the joke, right? Um, but there's a point where you just got to say, you know what, this is not going to reach the entire audience. Nothing is going to reach an entire audience.
Yeah.
Um, so let's make sure, for the audience that this is for, that we make it the best that we can, and stop just trying to appease everybody. Like, we don't do that with any other movie type than comedy. It feels like that we're so focused on this larger audience, and we're so like, it's, if you want that, go to a fucking circus. Like, that's how I kind of feel about it. If you want like fun for the whole family, go to a fucking circus. Go do something like that. But like, I want to go in and I want to laugh, and I want to come out just feeling like rejuvenated. Like I want my stomach and my face to hurt from laughing and tears rolling down my face. And I don't know the last time I had that experience watching a comedy.
I think the closest I got was Bad Boys 4, which is an action comedy, but
Okay.
I thought it was just fun. And that's why I think that movie's doing well, is because I think across the board there's just a lack of fun in a lot of things. Because like I was telling you, it's like everyone's auditioning to get into the Criterion closet now. And it's like,
Yes.
I love Criterion movies. I own plenty of them. But
Sure.
I know me as like a filmmaker, that's not what I'm gunning for. Like,
No.
if they like it, cool. But I want to make things that like fucking, we know what it is to be in the working class now more than ever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I want to give you something that after a long day of work, you can crack open a beer. You have a good fucking
100%.
time for like
Yes.
90 minutes, 2 hours. Or,
Yeah.
the end of the week, you and your girl, you and the boys, you go out, grab some dinner, you catch a movie, and you're just entertained. And, like,
Yeah.
I feel like people are simple. Like, if you just talk to the audience, like, if you just talk to regular people,
Right.
they tell you what they
But
want.
see, another problem, sure, like I said, to a degree, the wokeism is, but it's because filmmakers themselves are too gun shy and they don't have the balls to make stuff, which is like, how many times do we have to point out shows like South Park and It's Always Sunny are still on the air, making the same, I mean, like, I'm literally wearing It's Always Sunny theme. Like, it's like they still do it.
Yeah.
They still know how to do it. But the other problem is, this industry is not about the art anymore.
Oh, no.
It's not about the audience anymore. It's about fucking shareholders.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And if you come out here and you make a movie that's worth any amount of money and it doesn't quintuple what it made or more, or like, then it's a loss. They are trying to make so many things for so many people instead of making one for a smaller group and letting them just run with it. They are so worried about how much everything costs, and but they're throwing money away on just the dumbest things, or on movies that they're never letting see the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's what's so infuriating about it. Is it like, if it doesn't appeal to a lot of people, or the other problem is, movies are so expensive to go see. It's so expensive just to go to a movie. Like, you're talking about, movies used to be like $5.
Yeah.
You could go see a movie for $5. You could go see shit. If you could today go see a movie for $10, that would be good. But tickets are 18, 20 plus. That's if you just want to see it on a regular screen. So when people go to these movies, they want an experience, right? If I'm basically paying you minimum wage to go see a movie, if that's what I'm paying you, I want to see some Michael Bay shit. I want to see explosions, and I want to see robots, and I want to see just crazy stunts, and I want to all this. No one cares about watching Jeff Daniels take a shit on a toilet for 3 minutes anymore. And that is an iconic moment
That's
in comedy movies.
That's what we lost in society.
That's what we've lost. Look at what we've lost.
But I think that is a very fair point. I do think that streaming has cannibalized comedy, not for the better, because, I mean, just trying to get through, like, Netflix originals, it's wild how they went from, like, when they started, it was like HBO, like, you saw that and you were like, oh, that should be pretty good. And now it's just fucking bottom of the barrel. Like,
yeah.
I need someone to recommend something to me before I'm gonna, like, watch it, because you just never know.
Yes, 100%. One thing that I think streaming services should bring back, and I'm not even joking, they need to be, and I've said this for years, they need to have, like, 3, maybe 4 employees at Netflix a month who are like, watch these movies, just like they used to do at movie rental stores, where, you know, like in Seinfeld, where it's like, here's Gene's picks. You know, like, do that. Give me some, and then that way, when it's like, oh shit, you know, Joe's done some more picks on Netflix, let me see what he's suggested, and you can find more things that way. But also, can you do that if they're just deleting shit left and right?
Yeah.
And not preserving any of the media that they make anymore?
I think...
And that's not just Netflix, by the way.
That's everyone.
Obviously. Yes.
But yeah, I think that, you know, it's true of all industry. And that's like my big video I've been working on for August. I guess spoilers to the 100 or so people that watch this channel. There's it's basically like, wokeness isn't killing culture, corporatization is. Because it's easy to be like, oh, it's the woke, and da-da-da. And it's like, I watch a lot of movies, like, not just the big Hollywood ones, but like old, new, indie, mainstream. And I don't feel like Hollywood films are any more woke than they were 10, 20 years ago. Because Hollywood, spoiler for everyone, Hollywood has no loyalty to anything other than the dollar. They don't give a fuck about ideology. They don't give a fuck. It just, they want less controversy. So if they pander and kind of look like they're doing the right thing, that's a much, like, you don't have to deal with, you know, people protesting your movie, trying to boycott it on Twitter, whatever. But it winds up sort of just being this, like, you know, J.J. Abrams being like, I'm proud of the fact that we have, you know, same-sex relationships on screen in Star Wars, and it's 2 characters nobody gives a fuck about kissing in the background. And we're just like, that was it?
It's like background CG characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Like somewhat humanoid aliens that have no discernible gender or sex anyway. It's like, okay, great.
And so to me, it's like, if we're making that a culture war, if we're getting offended off of that, then, like, the anti-woke brigade is no better than, like, the SJWs of the 2010s.
100%.
Like,
100%.
You both are just the same thing, just yelling because your worldview isn't expressly brought forth in art. And just, like, you know, I would obviously lean more towards, like, the SJW argument, because it's like, yeah, everyone should be able to tell their story regardless of their cultural background. And I believe that, like, wholeheartedly, not just, you know, we need more black people, we need more interesting stories about, like, people living in Appalachia, like, because my thing is, like, if poor white people and poor black people got to see each other's lives and realize you were both being fucked by the same system, a lot of stuff probably would get fixed in this country real fast. But it's easier to be like, hey man, we know you're poor, but you're still white, so so like, do you really want us to do anything about it, or we could just, like, keep you mad about nonsense,
right? Because, but yeah, it's just like the whole, you can't say anything anymore. Okay, well, you first of all, yes, you fucking can. Yeah, like, as a matter of fact, it might be more monetizing now to say whatever the hell you want than it's ever been at any point in history.
Yeah, dude, we live in a consequence-free culture. Fucking Dr. Disrespect outed himself as a
PDF file.
Is probably gonna come back in 6 months and like we'll have some semblance of an audience. Maybe not as big as the one he has now, but like there's no consequences to anything anymore.
Yeah.
So like, what are you mad about? That's my fundamental problem. And I think you hit the nail on the head with what's going on with comedies is like we do have. I think it's a combination of filmmakers without balls, but also just like corporations.
They're so afraid. They're so afraid of upsetting people. They're so afraid of losing money, and that's literally it. That is the two things they don't want to. That's why you see so many reboots. It's why you see so many sequels. It's why you see so much lazy shit, because they just are about monetization and about, is this going to make back the money that we spent and then some? Which I understand that this is show business, right? I get that. Everyone says that. But it's also show business. Like, give me something worth watching.
Yeah. Like, you're not just entitled to the audience's dollar. Like, even with fucking Wonder and little shorts I'm making, like, if I'm asking for your time, I better give you something that's worth it.
Yeah.
And so if you're asking for people's money, you motherfucking better give them something that's worth it.
But what's the harm in throwing a few $1 million toward, you know what? I like this script. I haven't heard of this guy. I don't know the person attached or whatever. But like, sure, here's $5-10 million to go make a movie, which I understand is like that's a lot of money to you and I. That's a fucking weekend in the Poconos, if that, to the people who run these places. That's nothing. Like, just drop a little, because hey, you can make 10 of these. You can make 10 of these kinds of movies that have heart and that are funny and say something and are from, and trying to find that new thing. You can be ahead of that curve if you just take the chance. But nobody wants to, and nobody will, because the people who run the studios just need to be able to say, we were profitable. And that's it.
Which is crazy too, because like it's the my cards on the table. So the whole point of Wonder is not simply to be like content creation. It's to start with content, but slowly but surely grow to like producing some scripted stuff.
Yeah.
But largely because like I don't see things getting better in Hollywood for at least another 5 years. It seems like they very much are like, especially now with the whole cost cutting and belt tightening, like they're not learning the lessons of the last 3 years. You look at our biggest successes, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, original movie from the Daniels, only cost I want to say $20 million, and they flipped that into like I want to say 170 million. A24's highest grossing movie,
right?
Completely weird, like. That movie was bonkers. It was funny. It was heartfelt. The action was cool. Like it transcended genre. It was just a fucking vibe. Barbie, while yes, it's based on a licensed property, that was a Greta Gerwig movie.
So was Battleship.
Yeah,
but like, you know what I mean. But it's the people that you let make it. And yes, I understand. Like you said, Greta Gerwig was in it or directed it and wrote it, and Margot Robbie and Gosling, and like, yeah, you have all these huge names attached, but like that, but you can't tell me when you heard Barbie movie announced that it was going to be, first of all, anything like what came out.
Yeah.
But two, it just felt like another, like, well, this is just another money grab. But this is what, like, okay, if this is what we're going to do, then give people an old IP, someone that you don't know who is promising or whatever, and then let them have a fresh take on it and see what happens.
Because, like, yeah, Barbie in particular, like, the more I think about that movie, the more I'm like, oh, I think I just want to make Barbies. Because, like, because it's just like, everything I want to do in a movie is literally like, I remember the things I loved about movies as a kid, like really cool visuals, either something exciting was happening or something funny was happening, and a killer soundtrack. Like, we've lost the art of the soundtrack, and Barbie brought it back, and it's like all these little intangibles about spending the money in the right places, building practical sets, having, strong timing.
Practical sets,
like
practical effects. Oh.
It just is so good. And then counterpoint that with Oppenheimer, a 3-hour movie, half in black and white, about niggas just talking about science for 3 hours. And people were selling out IMAXs to watch those conversations.
Yes.
The key is specificity. The key is getting people who are clear in their visions.
Yes.
And will do the work to bring it to life.
Yes.
But, because I think, especially us, by virtue of pursuing this line of work and having professionally done it to some degree, we do understand, the push and pull of, we had a clear vision of what we wanted X-Play to be. And I think we really only got, 60 to 70% of the way there.
Right.
Before it was unceremoniously closed. And that the 30% was us having to adhere to, they're the guys signing the checks, so...
Right.
You know, we have to we can't be... There's things that we'll fight for and things that we just kind of got to be like, yeah, okay, I guess this is what we're doing this week.
Yeah, it's an L today.
And get through it.
I think one thing that people are really wanting out of movies today, and I think we might have really we cracked something here, especially talking about Barbie, is and Oppenheimer for that matter. People want to get lost. They want to get lost in a world. It's why you see such a surge in popularity with video games nowadays, and it's another reason why video game shows and movies, you've got, Fallout, you got The Last of Us, are doing so well now, because you can get lost in this world. You almost feel a part of it. That's what Barbie did.
Yeah.
And that's what Everything Everywhere All at Once did. They created this world for us to live in for 2 to 3 hours. Give me something engrossing that I can just sit in and be a part of and experience. And, you don't have to, you can do that with not a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's been me. It's only I feel like I've been looking at The Matrix. So I'm I watched Beverly Hills Cop this last weekend. Mm-hmm. Still bangs. But
of course.
The best moments are so easy to film. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg to get one guy in the back seat, 2 dudes in the front seat.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's one of those iconic scenes. And it's just people in a car. Mm-hmm. These are very simple things. I think there is some degree of overthinking it, of overextending yourself, and also just I like you're saying, filmmakers not having balls, but also having balls in the wrong places, which is not a trans joke now that it came out.
Okay.
But more so, I appreciate you're going for that thing, but I don't think you're that guy. Like me, I don't really write social message movies because I'm not Barry Jenkins. There are people who are better at that than me. I know what that movie would look like if I did it. And it'd be fucking terrible. So I'm just I focusing on relationships. I trying to find situational comedy. And if you can get a foot chase or something cool in there, why not?
Yeah, I like making people uncomfortable. I like being uncomfortable in being in a situation that they're not used to, that they don't like, that they don't know how to handle themselves. I love that kind of fish out of water stuff, man. Yeah. That's the best. That's my favorite kind of stuff to write. It's my favorite kind of stuff to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's so many interesting genres and storytelling techniques that have just fallen out of favor because everyone feels I gotta say something important, and it's bro, you're making Haunted Mansion. You don't have to. Like,
But
you
I mean,
don't.
But even look at like movies like, okay, so Wedding Crashers was on the other day. Wedding Crashers has some surprising heart to it.
Yeah.
It was raunchy and ridiculous and over the top, but it does still have a little heart to it. You can still do that. People still want that.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's the freaking Superbad. Like,
Yes.
it has so much heart to it. Like, there's a real ebb and flow to Evan and Seth's relationship as the movie goes on, but it's ultimately about friendship, and that bittersweet period of time where it's like, you know, your life's changing, maybe you're graduating college, maybe you're finally getting into girls, and like, the bedrock of
maybe you're about to drift apart from one another. Maybe this is our last hurrah. Like, that's very real.
Yeah, it's like, those are the things that I want to focus on. I want to see more movies focus on, because like, those are unifying at a time where like, everything's so divided. If you can remind people that, like, yeah, no matter what you believe, like, at the end of the day, like, heartbreak still fucking sucks. Friendship is great. Friends betraying you sucks. Like, these really simple human things that we all go through are universal, and I think comedy was always a great vessel for that. Especially even like, I hate when I hear people say like, you can't make Blazing Saddles anymore. You probably could.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it depends on, but it's just, again, it's how you say it. It's who's saying it. It's the, like, that's the thing is like, you know, sure, it's all like, I keep going back to It's Always Sunny. It's just one of my favorite shows, but like them in South Park, some of the shit that they say, I'm like, come on, man. Anybody, you can say it. It's just a matter of how.
Yeah,
it's a matter of intent. There's nuance to jokes. People don't want to believe that, but there's nuance. There's layers to jokes. You know, you may just see a dick joke, but I see, you know, like, oh yeah, there's so much more to it than the face value, and people often just look at the face value.
Yeah, I think it's, whenever people complain about, like, you know, being canceled or whatnot, I'm just like, maybe you just said some hack shit. Like, maybe you're just not that funny, because, you know, audiences are a bit more demanding by virtue of the fact we have access to far more, you know, far more movies, far more stories across all different genres or mediums beyond you know, comics, gaming, like. Now more than ever, if there's something you can read, chances are you can read it, watch it, maybe for something you're subscribed to, maybe for free. So now that, like, you're not just competing, you know, with this very narrow window, you're competing with everything. And so you got to step it up. So like, yeah, just like cliche, stereotypical gay accent, and your whole point is like, isn't that funny? Yeah, that's not gonna fly, because like, you know, half of us either have gay friends or gay relatives. And like, yeah, some are flamboyant, but some are just like dudes. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what are we doing here? And I think that's what's frustrating, because like, on both sides of this is like, you either have one contingent that's just like, I want to say the most fucked up, alienating things, because I don't understand trans, gay, black, whatever people. And then you have another side that's like, well,
you just want to use slurs.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to use slurs.
Like, we can't say anything anymore. You just want to use slurs.
And it's like, bro, I don't think you were allowed to say the N-word even 10 years ago. What are we talking about? I think that was kind of a bar that was set, you know.
But also, South Park did it.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, you can't do it if the point is,
correct.
You know,
if it's funny just because you say it, then it ain't funny. But if it's but the whole point of that episode was about people saying it and acting like it's not a big deal.
It's it's naggers. It's just Vanna White slowly.
Just
the A.
Yeah, and Randy's just naggers, right? Naggers, okay.
We've talked a lot about, you know, the downsides of comedy. So I want to talk about, what are some of your favorites from the glory years? Because I feel like we're only a few years separated in age. Like, we grew up around like that era of, American Pie up to, for me, I put like the modern glory era of like Dumb and Dumber. Was that like 95?
I want to say 94.
I would say like Jim Carrey's rise from the 90s through like
94. Oh yeah, because he had he had Ace Ventura right around the time he had
the Mask,
Dumb and Dumber, and had the Mask. Like, what a freaking run!
Like, and that's great. Like, comedies, I feel like could be the thing to save the box office, because there's that feeling of being in a room full of people and you're all just losing your mind. Like, that shared energy. It's like comedy and horror. Because, like, horror, when you've got group tension, like, dude, I remember seeing Nope in a sold-out IMAX, and the scene with Gordy, like, after...
Yeah.
You could, like, feel everyone in there just like, oh, this feels bad.
Yeah.
And the same with comedy. Like, I can't even remember that.
But that's what Jordan Peele's so good about. He knows that those reactions, comedy and horror, both come from a similar place.
Yeah.
They're both a genuine fear and laughter are both genuine reactions. Like, they just happen to you, right? Like, and he understands that, because I remember seeing Get Out in a sold out theater, with fucking what's his name, Bradley, oh god, I can't, the dad, and he's talking, I'd have voted for him on the third.
Yes.
Okay. I was laughing so hard at that scene where he first meets him. And Jordan Peele's got that figured out. He can make you laugh and then immediately turn it and make you feel unsettled.
Also, it's very specific jokes. Like, I remember at Nope Again where freaking Steven Yeun's talking about like the SNL sketch about Gordy, and the one line that always sends me is he's like, Chris Kattan is just crushing it. And in my head, because I was an SNL head, I was like, I laughed because I could picture it. I was like,
Mr. Peepers.
Yeah, I was like, Chris Kattan probably was crushing it in this universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what were some of your favorite comedies growing up?
Man, I mean, like, one of the first ones I always go to is Anchorman. I remember seeing Anchorman in theaters and laughing so hard. I remember seeing, God, what was I? I was probably 16 or so, but my brother-in-law, me and him secretly going to see Team America together in the movie theater, and just being in the floor, just crying, laughing. But like, there are other ones like that didn't get as, I mean, obviously, like, your old schools, like, those are great, but there's ones that didn't get as much like attention that I loved, like Role Models.
Dude, I just rewatched Role Models a month ago.
So
still
funny.
Smacks.
It's so good. Like, everything, like, it's just so joke dense. It's got so much heart to it. It's got great character arc. It's like, I wish Paul Rudd would write something else.
Yeah, dude,
I want to see him write some more stuff.
We talk a lot about Judd Apatow, but David Wayne was also holding it down during that period.
Yeah.
Speaking of like the unheralded comedies, I'm wearing my Hot Rod shirt today.
Beautiful.
That was a big one for me in high school. That was only in theaters for like 2 weeks.
Barely. Yeah.
So like
barely in theater.
I remember me and my buddies rented it at a Blockbuster back when those were still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when Rod's like that whole sequence of him falling down the hill,
I
was in hysterics. like that, like in your belly, couldn't breathe kind of laughter. I remember I convinced my uncle to take me to go see Team America.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked out because he was horrified at what he took his nephew to, because I was like 13 at the time.
Yeah.
South Park, I feel like the South Park movie does not get the love it deserves.
Yeah.
That one, I feel like the movie's like just perennially relevant. Like the blame fuck Canada. Just like, now we have to be like that because of Kendrick. But but that one's great. For me, my Will Ferrell fave is Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights. is yeah.
That's the one.
It's great.
Yeah, I saw Anchorman in theaters. I
Mm-hmm.
think I was like 12 or 13 when that one came out, and so it was like that was a movie I liked as I got older. When I was in high school, I went back to it and got into it more. But Talladega Nights, dude. I know people love Step Brothers.
Yeah.
There's just something about, maybe it's just because I like Days of Thunder, so any race car movie does it for me. But like I think I'm watching that 4th of July with my buds because
Beautiful.
we were hanging out the last weekend. And then we just like dead ass quoted the whole crepe scene in full, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm recording the scene in full. I think we got a
mess of crepes this morning.
Yeah, I love those.
Really thin pancake.
I think that's a fair compromise.
Yeah, but there's also like the 2000s was a time where people were taking chance on comedies, because another one that comes to mind too, a Ryan Reynolds vehicle was Waiting.
Oh yes, dude. Basically Clerks for our generation.
Yes, and it was great because, like, you know, everybody I know worked in a restaurant at some point, and you just watch that and you're like, yep, I know who that person is. I know who that person is. I know who that person is. And it just, but it was so funny. That's another one that's just great. But yeah, that was just a time where people were taking more chance on comedies, even smaller things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I even look at Jody Hill coming up with Foot Fist Way and Observe and Report.
Yes.
I love Foot Fist Way.
Yep, I have a DVD copy of that from when it came out.
Dude, so many beats in that movie. Just like, again, it's a more subtle comedy, and I feel like those play better as you're an adult and just kind of understand, like, freaking with the like crash zoom when she reveals like she gave a hand job to her boss or something. Or like when he beats the shit out of the old lady, just pop.
Oh my god, yeah.
Then also I liked Observe and Report, as mean spirited and bad as that movie feels. But I'm also the weirdo that, like, I think The Hangover 3 is my favorite Hangover movie just because it's so...
Really?
I like the first one. The second one, no. But the third one's just like...
The first one was one I remember seeing in theaters and being like, whoa, this is how comedy should be. You know, like... Because that one was just a breath of fresh air at the time.
I think part of why I love the third one more than the first one is simply because, like, the first one came out the summer right before I went to college. I went to ASU, like, the ultimate bro party school, so, like, the movie was just quoted, like, to death, that I was like... Whereas 3, nobody talks about 3, and it's so mean. It's so violent. It's so fucked up. And that's what I love about it. Like, dude... Yeah. Any movie that opens with a giraffe getting decapitated on a freeway and causing a multi-car pileup, I'm in. Like, that's... I don't know what that says about me.
Right. And I'll tell you, like, 3 others that I had kind of written down that I really loved. One, I loved School of Rock.
Oh, yeah.
School of Rock was another one that had, like, again, so much heart, and like, it's Jack Black. Like, he's just, like, you can't go wrong with anything Jack Black.
Jack Black, Richard Linklater, like...
Yes. Yeah. That was so good. But the other 2 that I loved that are so quotable for me to this day, made both by Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Dude, Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz, man, is just a perfect movie.
Like, Nick Frost actually has the perfect reaction whenever someone tells me they haven't seen Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, you ain't seen Bad Boys 2? Yeah. Yeah.
Those are up there for me. I remember sneaking into Shaun of the Dead as a kid because...
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was like they would always show the commercial for like the good R-rated movies on like Comedy Central and OGG4, and I'm like, I want to see these, but you know, my mom doesn't want to see them, so I'm not gonna not watch them.
Right.
Back in the days before like assigned seating, that was when you could really, you know.
Oh yeah, you had to get there early to get a good seat.
Are there comedies, like more recent comedies that you've seen? Some have been down on it, but have there been any in recent years that you were?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I've been trying to. That's one thing I've been trying to think of lately. Because when I'm like, "Oh, this was a recent comedy," and then I'm looking, I'm like, "No, that's like 5 years old."
Mm.
Because the one that comes to mind is Date Night, or no,
Game night,
Well,
dude.
Game Night. Game Night was Date Night was fun. The one
Yeah.
with Steve Carell, but Game Night is
So good.
fantastic.
Dude, how is that possibly profitable for Frito-Lay?
How is that? Yes.
I say
Literally, I literally said that not too long ago because there was a crazy deal at the grocery store, and I came home with like 5 bags of pop chips, and I was like, Sean.
No, yeah, like we were having a party, and like there was like an insane like buy 2 get 3 free, and I was like,
that's the same deal that I'm talking about.
Yes,
And I said that same thing. It's like, how can that possibly be profitable?
But I would that skirts that gets in there. I think that is kind of in the dead zone because to me I think comedy died-ish 2016, not related to like the presidency or anything, but like when Popstar bombed and Baywatch bombed.
Yeah.
One deservedly, Baywatch. Popstar was like, in my opinion, might be my favorite comedy of the 2010s.
Okay.
Tied with like The Other Guys, I'd say.
Oh, The Other Guys.
So good.
Good. That's another one that's up there.
Adam McKay needs to make comedies again.
He really does.
I think again,
he really does. He had a falling out with Will Ferrell.
I know.
Yeah,
Wanted to.
That's a bummer.
I just hate that he's like, I got to be serious director guy now. Like, no, you don't.
Right.
You really don't.
Oh man. Yeah.
But one recent one that came out last year, I love. If you haven't seen it, is Bottoms.
No, but I've heard that very thing that a lot of people really, really loved that.
Dude, it's so good. Like, it's super gay, super violent. It's like the antithesis to what you would call a quote unquote woke movie. Like, it's very clear that like, yeah, we're inclusive, but that doesn't mean we can't do dumb shit. Like,
right.
Emma Sullivan and Rachel Sennett just went the fuck off. I think they co-wrote the script, and it's just like, it feels like what Booksmart wanted to be. Because I remember when Booksmart came out, everyone was hyping it up as like, oh, it's like Superbad with girls, and I was like, well, Superbad was funny. This is just sweet. Like, it was a very sweet movie. I didn't think Booksmart was bad. I was just like, you like your characters a little too much. Like, it feels like deeply empathetic, which a comedy can be.
Sure.
But I don't know. Like, the thing I love about Superbad is it puts the characters through the ringer. They're not always portrayed in the best light. And I think that's the same thing Bottoms does. Like, the characters are likable enough, but they just shy away from the fact that they're kind of assholes.
People are afraid to make flawed characters, it feels like now.
Yeah, especially if they're like queer or black.
Yeah.
And that's what I really respected is like, yeah, this is what equality looks like. Of just like, yeah, they're gay. That's not the point. Like, and I guess to some degree it is because they're trying to get laid. But like, you know what I mean? It's
right. Yeah, I get that.
It's there, but like, you're only gonna care about it if you care about it. But like, the movie's doing its own thing. Marshawn Lynch coming through with an incredible comedic turn.
Let me tell you, Marshawn Lynch needs to be in more comedies.
Oh yeah,
he is so naturally funny. It's insane. There was there was that show recently, Murderville, I think it was called, that Will Arnett did, and it was an improv comedy murder mystery show with a celebrity guest. Marshawn was on that. Dude, he was the best, besides maybe Conan O'Brien.
Wow.
Marshawn was like one of maybe the best episode. He gets so into it. He just has fun with it. He needs to do more stuff. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, he killed it. He killed it in Bottoms.
Yeah.
That's one that I really dug. So we talked a lot about, like, you know, the highs, the lows. What are you hoping for? Like, are there any comedies coming up that you are looking forward to? And what would you hope to see from them going forward?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what comedies are coming up that I'm like, oh man, this looks good. Like I don't know. I'll tell you, I saw, and I'll count this as a comedy. Fall Guy was great.
Fall Guy was so good.
Fall Guy to me felt like a love letter to people in the industry, and it felt like a love letter to movies. And again, Ryan Gosling is someone else that I want to see do more comedy, because another one of my favorite movies ever that he did was The Nice Guys. It was because it was written by Shane Black.
Yeah.
And
Nice
and
Guys.
it was Nice Guys. Yeah, and I would kill for a sequel to that movie, but I thought Fall Guy was great.
No, dude,
I thought it was really good.
I'm mad people are sleeping on that movie because me and my
nobody's going to it because it's so expensive. That's the problem.
So I went on a $5 Tuesday. There's a local theater chain here, the Majestic, and so they do like their $5 Tuesdays.
Right.
And I like waited way after the fact. I was like, you know what? I'll finally go check out the Fall Guy, and I had a goddamn blast. Like the action was good, the jokes landed. Like it was the perfect summer movie. Like so many gags in there got me. The you driving to my car and just like the I thought that one was good. I thought Bad Boys 4 was surprisingly good, but I knew it was gonna be.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that one's really good. I'm interested to go see that one. But like as far like I mean the only thing that I know of that you could call an upcoming comedy, I mean, there's Axel F.
I hope it's
the
good.
new Beverly Hills Cop. And I am interested to see that because I've missed the hell out of Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
But like the only other, I mean, I guess yes, it's a comedy, but it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing. It feels like everything is like there's just no new comedies really coming out. That
it's something Adam DeMamp said when he was promoting. I think he had a Netflix movie last year, and I kind of agreed with it. Where it's like Marvel kind of killed comedies because it really did become the ready-made crowd pleaser. Like it's got the action, it's got the jokes, and while it's not like always ha 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 funny, there's enough that'll get the audience like to chuckle. Yeah,
it's because you're not expecting it, right?
Yeah.
It's when comedy. It's when movies are funny that you don't expect to be movie. Jesus,
movies don't expect to be movies.
When you don't expect movies to be funny, they're funnier. You remember that more, and I think you're right. I think that's a lot of how Marvel movies are now because you don't expect there to be. I mean, you do now, but starting out, you didn't expect there to be as much humor as there was.
I mean, like. When you got Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, like there's gonna be a baseline level of jokes. Yeah, I think Deadpool and Wolverine's
I think that, I mean, honestly, that's the only one I even know about because they don't even really market them anymore. I know that movie Hitman with Glenn Powell is out, and I'm interested to see that. And that rom-com he did with Sydney Sweeney, I heard, was like surprisingly good too.
Yeah, I think that is like. That's sort of what I think they should be doing more of because that movie basically was low-key another Something About Mary because it opened...
Dude, there are some very, very, very funny and underrated rom-coms. Because like one of my favorites is She's Out of Your League or She's Out of My League.
I remember that with Jay Baruchel.
With Jay Baruchel, yeah. And what's her name? Alice Eve. That movie's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's a great movie.
Speaking of Jay Baruchel, did you watch Blackberry?
Okay, that's one that we have on our list to watch because obviously I love Glenn Howerton and I love Jay too. Was it good?
It's so fucking funny. You would not. I was not expecting because I went to go see Blackberry just on a whim. It got good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to be a comedy to the level that it was a comedy. Like, because, I mean, obviously you get Glenn Howard and Jay Baruchel, but the poster kind of looked more like your standard, like, not Social Network movie. But no, like, so Matt Johnson directed it. I don't know if you watched Nirvana, the band, the show.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that same sort of anarchic comedic spirit is all through it. Glenn Howerton was robbed by not at least getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor last year because
wow, that's what I've heard, that he just like crushed it.
His performance as Jim Bassley is like, it's like an, you can see elements of Dennis through like the rage, but it also is like, what if Dennis had his shit together? Is kind of the...
Yeah, I've heard like when he loses it, it's hilarious how terrifying it is.
Yeah, no, there's a scene towards the end of the movie that is going to, that I still quote for no reason. When I'm like playing a game, I'll just yell that if I'm doing something like great. But yeah, I wish we got more of those. I wish that, you know, they'd bring back lower and mid-budget movies, because I think that would solve so many problems. Like,
yes,
if every movie isn't expected to make $1 billion, you'll
it's a flop.
Yeah, and like
it's a flop if it doesn't. Yeah, you know.
But like if you put out, like, look at freaking Evil Dead Rise last year. It was supposed to go streaming originally. Only cost $20 million to make, I want to say, and it's surprisingly legged out to like $170 million.
Right,
and like that gained you money, as opposed to like The Flash, which lost you hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
And I guess for me, if I'm doing the math, I'm more comfortable like going back to how it used to be. Maybe have 1 or 2 tent poles in the summer, have your Christmas movie, and then throughout the year, just an array of movies from like $5 to $50 million. Because you know what else it's gonna do is like train up this generation of directors so they know how to handle directing at this level. Because if I make Tracer and it does well, and then they're like, hey, we loved your movie, do you want to direct Avengers 7? No! Why the fuck are you asking me that?
Right.
But what's crazy is like that's what's happening.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's what's happening in movies is like the NFL and NBA and NHL just like not having a draft and being like, no, we're just going to stick with these players who we know are good.
Yeah.
Well, you got like look at all these other talent. Yeah, but they're not proven. Well, what do you mean they're not proven? They're like the best in college football. Yeah, college football's not pro. And like, but then when they like make them bet, like
give them a
invest and give them that opportunity. It doesn't make sense. We take it like the show part of show business is like the least important part of it now.
Because you get surprised when like you give these dudes who have no real experience directing movies at this level the reins of these productions,
right?
And that like they go over budget, maybe they go over schedule, and it's like because if I went from making a little indie movie with my friends, basically working within like at most a 10 to 20 person crew, and then you're putting me in charge of a production that has like departments on departments that have like 20 to 50, hundreds of people in the VFX, and I'm supposed to be the one to like no, because I don't even know how to do this on like give me some actual money, give me enough of a team, and let's just do something within reason. Because again, like maybe your $10 million movie doesn't break the box office, but if it hits, that return investment is great. Because if you can flip a $10 million movie into $150 million, that's a dub.
Yeah.
And that's giving you basically, like, when you look at the margins on these big budget movies, after, like, P&A and, like, giving people the back end, they're only making, like, what, 50 to 100 million if they earn a fucking billion?
Right.
Whereas, like, if you spent 10 million, spent 20 million on the marketing, that's 30 million in general. You opened at 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, that's what annoys me about the business now, is like, no, you guys aren't businessing right. You're selling me bullshit now.
Right. It's not about spending less money. It's about spending your money correctly.
Yeah.
It's about spending it well. It's about not throwing it away on stupid shit or things that don't help the filmmakers.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
I
I don't give a shit about your third house in Bali, David Zaslav. I don't fucking care. You don't need it.
Yeah, it's almost like spending, like, I'd say tens of thousands of dollars on a giant NES controller that doesn't even work.
Or a gaming chair that you never use. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
just dumbass spending and excesses. But it's because it's one thing that I always think about that Chad Stahelski says about why those John Wick movies are good, and he's like, it's just where I spend the money. Like, the reason our action looks so good is because they fought me on the first two, but eventually they're like, they saw the results.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
right.
It's like I put a lot of money into pre-production. Like, we're rehearsing, we're practicing, because oftentimes on these shows, like, you got the stunt team training 2 to 3 months, and then you bring the talent in and expect them to learn and be on par with them in only a week, 2 weeks. And so then that's where you get, like, really bad action where you're going to shake the camera around, chop it a million different pieces, because you have people who look good going against someone who's, like, just trying to hit their moves, not really performing, just trying to. And so, to me, that was crazy that he built a system that I'm like, that sounds like how it should be. It's wild that's antithetical to how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And with comedy, it's like, I don't know what the fix is there. You know what I mean? Because
right.
We don't. I think one problem too is, like, we don't necessarily have a lot of comedic actors anymore.
No.
Like I look at Baywatch as an example. That was like the flaw of that movie is it was a comedy that had no comedic actors in its ensemble. Like, I think only John Bass is like the one. Like, Zac Efron can be funny, The Rock can be funny, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like an Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean? Or a Jack Black. Like, people who are.
They're not Will Ferrell. They're not
Ben Stiller. Like dudes who understand, because it's an art to it. Like, comedy guys can do drama easily because it's like comedy is a much like harder tightrope to walk. Like, drama, you're playing it straight, and sometimes in comedy you are, but like even if you're playing it straight, you're probably in a very absurd situation.
Mm-hmm.
But like going from drama to comedy, like.
Yeah, and I've even seen interviews with dramatic actors who talk about comedians coming over and being great actors, and they're just like, but go and do comedy, it's a whole different beast. It's you can either do it or you can't.
Yeah, there's like a degree of fearlessness to it, a degree of just being a student of the game. Like, I think that's one thing we're losing is
the key is the key is don't try to be funny.
Yeah, you have to play it real. You have to.
Yes.
Because that was I was watching Eddie Murphy's interviews for Axel F, and he's like, we still wanted it to be funny, but I always was focused on, like, we have to make it real, because the more outlandish we go, the less people buy into it. And like, you could see that in the first Beverly Hills Cop. Like, Axel Foley is just one of the coolest characters, because he's funny, but he's confident, and like. Eddie Murphy's like weirdly kind of hot in it, just like the way he carries himself. So it's just like this full package of an actor that we don't have those anymore. Like the most we have are like a Timothée Chalamet, who's a great dramatic actor, but I don't know. He's fine on SNL when he's on SNL, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I guess Ryan Gosling's a surprisingly good comedic actor,
right?
But. Shit, what? Is Ryan Gosling more of a comedic actor? Just thinking about how good he is in comedies.
Lately, yeah.
Because, like, Fall Guy, Barbie,
Nice Guys. Yeah. He should. He needs to do more. He needs to do more comedy. He's hilarious.
That's our...
He understands timing. Like, he's not afraid. And that's the thing, too, is he's not afraid to be the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
So many actors are like, well, I don't want You know, I don't want to look bad, or I don't want to be the joke, or I want to. It's comedy. What are you talking about? You don't want to be the joke. Like,
I think that's the, because I know like it was weird at G4 since we were writing for ourselves a lot of the time, but I would always make myself the butt of the joke simply because like I don't want to offend anyone. Like I don't want to make any of our coworkers like feel like I'm making fun of them. So it's just easier to be like, yeah, I'll get
100%. Yeah, 100%. I did the same thing. Like I remember I did that same. I think it's the header on my Twitter of the like Borderlands style splash page. Jake, he's the worst. Like, I like that. I do the same thing. I'm like, I'll be the butt of the joke. I don't care. Like, it's fine.
Only time I think I didn't was when we did the Professor Chokes because Corey was a character, so we got to make him the butt of the joke.
Right. Yeah.
I do miss those. That's like the one thing I think about a lot. Of just like, man, I kind of miss those days where we were just like in the green screen room doing nonsense and getting paid for it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, this was a great chat about comedy.
Yeah.
I introduced you earlier, but again, this is my
friend.
Well,
you didn't technically introduce me earlier.
I got around to it. Which,
okay.
You know, that's a technically to me.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
Where can they find you, Jake? What you doing?
I mean, I'm on socials at Jake G Bennett. That's 2 N's, 2 T's, 2 E's, not next to each other though. And right now I'm working on rebooked podcasts. It's about pro wrestling, but focusing on the storytelling aspect of it. That's kind of what we're focusing on because, you know, those are 2 other art forms that we love. And when they go well together, ooh, are they good?
Yeah. I do enjoy listening to your podcast.
Well, thank you.
I will throw it on when I'm making dinner.
Yeah.
Every now and again. I appreciate you watching AEW for me.
Of course. Yeah, no problem.
Someone's got to do it, you know.
Somebody has to. Somebody has to. Yeah,
you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. But that comes out every Wednesday. Pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. We're also here on YouTube and so give it a check, give it a listen if you like pro wrestling.
And even if you don't like pro wrestling,
even if you don't like pro wrestling, it's fine. Yeah, I can help. I think it can help you get into it because one of the things that we want to do is like we want to focus on the positives of like, man, you want to go hear negative shit about wrestling? Just get on the internet.
Yeah,
like
look at the comment section.
Right, look at the comment section. But we want to focus on what's being done well or how can we make it better. So that's part of why it's been a lot of fun to do. But it's with one of our fellow G4 alums, Golden Boy, and Matt Raywald, who is one of the current voices of TNA Wrestling, who you may remember from WWE and NXT as Aiden English, from the Vaudevillains. It's been a lot of fun doing that. And it's getting some good traction. We got a good little audience going, so it's been a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man! I'm happy to see you doing stuff. I'd love to do more stuff with you. You're
100%. I'm up for it.
To work and write with.
Yes.
Yeah, just miss you, bud.
Yeah, I miss you too, man.
So once again, I want to thank Jake for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I love working with him. Hoping we get more of them on the channel soon. Remember to check out his podcast, Rebooked. I put a link to it in the description below. It's a great show. You should give it a listen or a watch. What are some of your favorite comedies? I know we talked a lot about, the downturn of comedy, but what are some of your favorites of the Glory era? Or do you have any recent comedies that you feel have been slept on and more people should check out? I'm always looking for a good rec. Please drop it in the comments below. And with that, that's my spiel for today. So I'll see you in about a week with an actually pretty good on one of my favorite box office bombs. Later.